Welcome to the Gateway Board of School Directors regular board meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, 2019. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a roll call, Bonnie?
Here.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Here.
Mr. Gottman?
Here.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Here.
Mr. McIntyre?
Present.
Mrs. Neely?
Here.
Mr. Ritter? Mr. Ritter? Mrs. Warning?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Okay, are there any comments from residents on agenda items this evening? Anybody sign up in advance, Bonnie?
No one signed in advance, no.
No? Seeing none, we'll move to Section A, minutes of previous meetings. Resolve Gateway Board of School Directors approves the minutes of the following previously held meetings: Building and Grounds, August 13th, study session, August 13th, regular board meeting, August 20th. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Gottman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, Bonnie. Section B, bills and financial reports. Mr. Schott.
Section B, resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves Sections B1, list of bills, and B2, monthly financial statements, as listed in Section B at the Tuesday, September 17th, 2019 regular board meeting, and specifically, Section B1, list of bills for the month of September 2019. Section B1, list of bills for September 2019, added after a study session meeting. And finally, Section B2, monthly financial statements for the month of August 2019.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, Bonnie.
One, please. Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mrs. Neely?
Aye.
Is Mr. Ritter with us yet?
I think he's on the airplane.
John Reuters here.
Oh, John's back.
Okay. Mr. Ritter, that is on the financial sections.
Motion to approve list of bills, John.
Very good.
Mrs. Warning?
I'm going to go on mute.
Mr. Ritter, could you repeat that?
Was that an aye?
Was that an aye?
Mr. Ritter, do you approve
Yes. I
list of
do.
bills? Yes.
I have to take a little while to go on and off mute, so give me
Okay,
a
and-
second.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Section C, we don't have any items previously tabled, so we'll move to Section D, personnel agenda. Mrs. Crum.
Thank you, Mr. Rucci. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda items 1 through 9 as listed in Section D for the regular board meeting of Tuesday, September 17th. Under resignations, we have 8 listed, 3 leaves of absence. We have 8 transfers, 4 that we'd like to call attention to that were added after the study session. Under employment, a temporary teaching position. We have 2 lunchroom aides that were added after the study session, substitute custodian, a substitute food service worker, the extension of the superintendent contract, the setting of the school police rates for the 1920 school year. Under supplemental contracts, we have a resignation and 2 issuance, and under volunteers, we have 9, 1 which was added after the agenda meeting, and the approval of the assistant business manager, which was also added after the agenda meeting.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions, comments for Mrs. Crump? It's a big section. Anyone? Mr. Lapsevich? Sure. Do you have any questions?
Oh, no, ma'am.
No discussion? Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mrs. Neely?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
John says aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Thank you.
I do have one comment now that they voted. Thank you, Dr. Short. for another 5 years. Got you in here 4 years ago.
Truly humbled, honored. Want to thank the board, community, staff, my administrative team, our administrative team is phenomenal, and the work that we've put in, first and foremost, is for the students, the achievement and growth that has been demonstrated throughout the last 4 years, the work within the equity program. Dr. Chakey highlighted that last week. It's something that we're very proud of within the Gateway School District, and it truly represents who we are as Gators. And I'm excited. There's no other place I'd rather be. I'm a graduate of Gateway, lived in the community for so many years, and want to retire a Gator. So I'm very thankful and humbled that this board renewed my contract. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Section E, conferences and conventions.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves and authorizes the following conferences and conventions as listed in Section E at the regular board meeting of Tuesday, September 17th. We have several conferences listed on the first page. The second page there, we have a number of conferences that were added after the study session. We have 6 members of the Foreign Language Department going to attend the PSMLA annual conference. We also have a school counselor who's going to attend the PSCA conference.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bova. Are there questions or comments? Discussion? Yes.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mrs. Neely.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
John says aye.
Mrs. Warning. Mr. Williams. Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Motion passes. Gotta love Scotty. Section F, administrative reports. Are you taking that, Dr. Short? Or is that
I'll
Ms.
defer
Dr.
to
Rossi?
Updates. Item number 1, Safety and Security at Divine Mercy Academy, using their use of the Title IV funds as depicted in Exhibit A. Accept a donation of $10,000 from Burlington and their Adopt a Classroom program. Item number 3, approve the pilot English Language Arts resource, My Perspectives, at the high school for the 1920 school year. Item number 4, approval of the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust Artists in Residence program for grades 7 and 8. That'll be out of Title IV funds as well. Item number 5, Title I agreement with Catapult Learning for services at Mother Sorrows. And item number 6, approval of the district to pursue the flexible instructional day as outlined by the PA Department of Education.
Right, number 7, we have esports team at Gateway High School. Item number 8, professional meetings. We have 2 of our school police officers attending basic SRO training, and we also have various staff members attending student assistant programs training. Item number 9, we have the facility agreements, 2 as listed. And moving into special education for item number 10, we have the approval of the Eastern Area Special Schools Joint Committee mail ballot and approval of officers for the Joint Board of School Directors.
Item number 11, approve the Student Transportation of America list of school bus drivers and monitors for the 1920 school year as depicted in Exhibit D. Item number 12, accept the following 2 donations, the first being from Aldi's $250 gift card, the second being a $20,000 check from an anonymous donor for the backpack program, University Park Elementary School. Item number 13, approve the purchase of the acoustical ceiling panels for the Ramsey Elementary School gymnasium from Atlas Wholesale Supply in the total amount of $15,570.88 as a capital repair project to be completed during the 1920 fiscal year. Item number 14, recognize the following district booster clubs and support organizations who have properly submitted applications to the district for a 1920 fiscal year as depicted below. Item number 15, approve Axis Architecture, PC, to serve as the district's architect of record for development of bid specifications for applicable district capital repair, renovation, and construction projects per the fee schedule as depicted in Exhibit E. Item number 16, this was added after the study session meeting. Approve the memorandum of understanding between the Gateway School District and Washington County Children and Youth Services Transportation Procedures Agreement to ensure the educational stability of foster care youth as depicted in Exhibit F. Item number 17, this was also added after study session meeting. Approve the district's utilization of Build America Mutual Assurance Company to serve as the district's municipal bond insurer for upcoming issuance of the district's general obligation bonds, fairly taxable, series of 2019, which are refunding a portion of the district's currently outstanding general obligation bond series of 2012 as depicted in Exhibit G. Please note, the above estimated fee is $51,104 and is based on 0.174% of the total estimated principal and interest of the bonds to be issued by the district. The total actual fee will be calculated and paid upon closing by the district once the actual principal and interest of the bonds have been determined. The district's current bond rating of A1 will be enhanced to AA through the utilization of Build America Mutual Assurance Company, serving as district's municipal bond insurer. Speaking with the bonds, as I mentioned last time, unfortunately, one of the items did come true. Moody's did downgrade the district from AA3 to A1, so that basically forced our hand and made it to acquire the bond insurance for the issue. We do have Mr. Chris Shelby, Mr. Randy Frederick from Piper Jaffray. They actually did the analysis and determined that it was still in the district's best interest to take out the insurance on the bonds. We've had another development since last Tuesday as well. Unfortunately, the bond market has gone away from us, I believe over 40 basis points. I'll let the gentleman expand a little bit upon that. But you know, unfortunately, the present value floor of $750,000, that's just not there presently due to a number of different factors. But with the passing of this resolution, we are poised and ready to act at a moment's notice when the market does come back, and keep our fingers crossed that it will. But if either of you gentlemen would like to elaborate on anything related to that, or?
Sure. I mean, I'll be happy.
Thanks, Chris.
I'll elaborate for just a moment. First of all, with regard to the Build America Mutual Bond Insurance, which Paul discussed, I think, pretty clearly, it is your acquisition of a AA rating that will put you in the market at a straight AA, which is actually higher than the AA3, which you had before. Your rating was dropped to A1, which is only one grade under a AA3. It goes AA1, AA2, AA3, next category A1, A2, A3. So you've only gone down one category, and truly it doesn't reflect on the district as having any credit issues whatsoever. But that being said as well, you've been approved for municipal bond insurance. The estimated fee was given to you by Paul, and that fee is also taken into account before your net savings are reported to you, so that you know that is not something that comes off of the savings after the fact, after the bond issue is complete. But anyways, we do have to tell you that tonight, as Paul said, interest rates have dropped by about 0.4%, precipitously over the last 2 weeks, and really since we met. And the reason for that, you may have heard on the news yourself, is that a multitude of things. China and the United States are now maybe going to talk about tariffs. Also, the implementation of tariffs on China have been temporarily delayed, or been at least stated to possibly be delayed for their implementation. All those things that benefit the equity market, the stock market, all those things have a negative impact on the interest rate market. So it's
amazing how one tweet can change.
it is amazing. It really is. But with that being said, just to put things lastly in line, the last time we were here, I think the 10-year Treasury bond, and we may have mentioned this, was at approximately 1.5%. maybe actually 1.47%. Today, it's at 1.8%. So that's the move that has taken place. Just as quickly, I won't even say if something happened tonight, that could be back down to 1.6% tomorrow and probably put you at your minimum range that you approved for the bond issue to be done. Just as a reminder, you did approve $750,000 as the minimum amount of savings, just so that you know your current savings are at 2.08%. I think I may have mentioned that 2% is the typical minimum, but we were well above that last time. And at 2.08%, you're at approximately $450,000 net savings to the district. If you wanted to do the bond issue tomorrow, that would be your net benefit. And of course, I say that with a little bit of hesitation, only because tomorrow's market could be different than where we stand tonight. But anyways, with that probably not being the case, that would be your current savings level by doing this net to the district. I think we talked about your annual debt service reduction before at, if I change into my glasses so I can read, about $80,000 a year, $84,000 per year right now, and that would have produced, when we were here last time, a net present value to the district of $940,000. Today, where we used rates updated from the last time, you're now at about $42,000 per year, and that would result in a $553,000 total debt service reduction over the remaining life of the bond issue. But the present value of that is $450,000. So the 450 does not meet the minimum that you passed under your parameters resolution, and we're all here to adhere to that. It's up to you, and we are not here to say you should change that, but it is always your choice as to what you want that minimum to be. But right now, the parameters resolution does not permit us to go into the market on your behalf. So we did want to give you that as a realistic update. Last thing, with the cost of insurance, that is taken into account so that the 750 that you have that you still want is 750, not minus 50,000. It's 750 after all costs of issuance have been deducted. So that's just an update. Of course, we'll be monitoring the market. The market could move very quickly either way. We are currently in a position, if we were to able to achieve greater than $750,000, to put you in the market immediately. And by that I mean probably within a 24-hour period of realizing that we now can meet or exceed your savings. So we just wanted to report that to you as well. But you can see right now you're a bit under the threshold that you set. Any questions whatsoever?
Can I have a motion in a second, then we can have discussion?
Motion to approve number 17 only for now.
All right,
John,
discussion.
second.
Thank you, it's open for discussion. Yes.
Just number 17 on the list.
Does anybody have any questions?
Anybody?
Nobody?
Mr. Schott, do you see any reason for us to look at that $750,000 number and tinker with it, bring it down, or?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I think we can still achieve what we wanted to originally achieve and realize there's greater savings, which will provide us a greater financial impact moving forward.
Very good. That's all I needed to know.
Okay. Can I have a motion and a second to also approve items 1 to 16? We can open that up for discussion.
Well,
There might be questions.
17 requires a supermajority, so I think we.
No, we could vote on it first.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Add it after the study session.
So was 16 though.
Yeah, there's no.
Yeah, can we group 16 and 17 together since they're both?
There's no expenditure on 16 as far as I know.
Is there a cost to item 16?
There's not, it actually allows us to be reimbursed. We're actually going to have a similar resolution for Allegheny County next month as well for
Okay.
various transportation.
Then we'll just vote on 17.
Just 17, yeah. Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mrs. Neely.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter. Mr. Ritter?
John says aye. And listen, guys, I need to drop now. See you
Okay,
when I
John.
get back.
Thanks, John.
John says goodbye.
Okay. Mrs. Warning?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Can I
Motion
have,
to approve 1 through 16.
Second.
thank you, Mr. Williams. Bonnie has to catch up too fast. Motion to approve by Mr. McIntyre, I'm delaying. Motion seconded by Mr. Williams, I'm delaying. Are there any questions or comments for items 1 through 16?
Yeah. This is gonna get sticky, but, I want to preface this by saying whoever this anonymous donor is, at $20,000 is a tremendously generous gift to the district and to the backpack program. And, you know, my pending, not so much objection, but question, you know, as to the nature of the anonymity, is that a word? Of the donation is in no way a judgment of whoever donated this or any sign of, like, any lack of appreciation for it. This is, I'm blown away by the generosity. But I've been thinking about this all week, and I think this brings up some possibly significant transparency issues for the board and the district moving forward. It's a big dollar amount. We don't know who it came from, what their motives are, or, you know, anything like that. And like, as an example that I keep rattling in my head is, if we rewind the clock this past spring, and we received an anonymous donation, say Mr. Schott walked in with an anonymous donation for $360,000 earmarked for the scoreboard. And we vote as a board to accept that. It's an incredibly generous offer. And then the next week, we renew STA's contract. Somewhere down the line, it leaks that they donated that money. I think that becomes a pretty sticky situation, possibly a scandalous thing, almost like a pay-to-play type situation.
Are you asking our attorney for a legal opinion?
I'm just trying to have a discussion on this. I think possibly we need to at least have maybe a policy committee meeting or discuss this within the committee, that we need to have some kind of a policy in place for,
Can we have a legal
The
opinion from
for
our attorney
transparency
on
reasons.
acceptance of anonymous donations?
Well, you can certainly accept an anonymous donation. There's nothing in the school code that prohibits you from accepting such a gift. So I think what Rick seems to be headed towards is, do you want to continue to be able to accept anonymous donations because of his perception of transparency is that some entity, some business, some individual who might be doing business with you makes an anonymous donation in an attempt to sweeten his or her or its position with you. That presupposes, though, that somebody finds out who did it under Rick's scenario. And if that happens, does that create a transparency issue? Does that create a potential conflict? There's a lot of guessing going on with that hypothetical. If it's truly anonymous and nobody knows about it, then it's anonymous.
Can't sway you.
But
It's anonymous.
if there is a leak of that anonymity, and it turns out it's a vendor of yours, that wouldn't look good. So I think he's asking whether or not you're interested in creating a policy to, in the future, not accept anonymous donations. Am I reading it right, Rick?
Yeah, I think so, Bruce. Again, I'm not saying that I'm not attempting to argue that we not accept this check tonight, or that we come up with a policy here tonight. But I think it's something that at least should spark conversation, at least, you know, some thought in everybody's mind moving forward. So just, you know, something to chew on, something to think about moving forward. And when we have a policy committee, maybe that's something we need to look at. You know, the possible ramifications of keeping it as we are or changing it.
had a feeling that would probably come up. I just looked up the word anonymous, and it says without a name acknowledged as that of an author, contributor, or the like of. And it gives the anonymous letter to the editor, an anonymous donation, an unknown name, whose name is withheld, anonymous author. If the person that donated this wanted to be known who it was, I think they would have said a name. And at this time, that person wants to remain anonymous. And, you know, I've gotten other, let me think the word to say it, a text saying because something Mr. Lapsevich did, which Mr. Lapsevich has no idea what was going on. He doesn't know it was an anonymous donor, Mr. Bova. I just wanted,
Well, first of all, thanks. That would have been a good thing to have responded to the text. But to the larger point, we got to be one messed up board when we can't figure out how to accept $20,000. Honest to God, someone's donated $20,000 out of the good of their heart, and we're trying to figure out how we can protect ourselves. We already accepted $300,000+ from a vendor. So the horse kind of left the barn.
I mean, you know, another one came in, it could be I don't want to get into the details, an anonymous big vendor. I don't know an anonymous big vendor that wouldn't want to be acknowledged. So, you know, as I said last week, you know, I appreciate it, I thank the person. It's going to be put to good use, and that's all, you know, I have to
Again,
say.
I think it's remarkable. It's a shame that it's gotten tangled up the way it has, and
Everybody thinks there's
An ulterior motive.
yeah, like people have here.
Society has become very cynical.
Yes, it has.
well, I mean, I'll simply add what, you know, was shared with me, which is typically if someone wants a donation to be anonymous, they do it not in front of people, they do it in an anonymous manner. Having said that, whoever wants to donate $20,000, whoever's out there to this school district, please be our guest, however you want to do it. Slip it under the door, you know, however you want to do it, just keep doing it. I promise in the future, we'll handle it better. We'll figure this out.
Well, Mr. Ritter's not here, but his comment I thought was wise. He said, since the donation came from an anonymous source, the board and the district presumably will not know who the donor is and therefore cannot be influenced, pressured, bribed, expected, manipulated, etc. regarding any item of policy, interest, regulation, purchase, or reciprocal donation. Very well said, Mr. Ritter.
Great.
I know. Are there any questions or comments on any other items in this section F?
I got one question.
Mr. Gottman, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Under elementary education for flexible instructional day. For this instructional day program, that's my questions are, one, is it just solely for elementary schools? Does it go to the secondary level? And is this something where, I've known like other places, if you have a snow day, that this allows you to do instruction online to be able to make up the work so you don't have to take off a day of school? And how many days does this allow you to use it?
It could be a K-12, it could be offline, online, a combination of both. Could be an assignment from the teacher. I believe you're allowed up to 5 days to use it. But this would just allow us to have the option to do it. There's still some things we'll have to work out, but it gives us the option in the spring to use it.
Okay. I actually know some people who are teachers up in the Chicago area, and they have something similar to this, and it was a very big success. So if this works out here, that'd be tremendous.
Anyone else? Okay, we can have a roll call, Bonnie, on items 1 through 16.
Mrs. Neely?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning? Aye. Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Okay, motions carry. Section G, resolutions by board members. We have none, unless there are any late additions. None? Okay, comments from residents on non-agenda items. Mrs. Kaplan, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Rachel Kaplan, and I live at 520 Arden Drive in Monroeville. This is my daughter, Sydney Wander. She is currently number 1 at the high school, and she's in 11th grade. In August, about 3 days prior to school starting, I got a call from Mrs. Tortorella stating that Sydney's schedule would not be able to be accommodated by the district. She was not able to get into AP Computer Science A. She was not able to get into AP Honors History. She was not able to get into AP Government, and she was not able to get into Honors Environmental Science. So those were 4 different courses that she was not able to get scheduled for, which we were told just 3 days prior to school starting. According to the handbook distributed from the school, which I made a copy for everyone, schedules are to be finalized by mid-June. There is an underline in the course handbook that states that. I didn't add that. It's already there. So clearly, Sydney did her due diligence and turned in her form by February. Schedules were supposed to be finalized. Of course, they weren't. So I called Mr. Stevens multiple times. We went back and forth, and he was very clear with me. He was not going to change the schedule for my daughter, to which I told him, I understand. Sydney is not the only student in the school, but I can't have her in coursework that's not appropriate for her. With that being said, we came up with the option of AP History Online. AP History Online is mandated by the College Board. This is not a course that is able to be manipulated by a professor or a teacher. The curricula for all of the courses is set by the College Board, which I've made you a copy of. It goes week by week, so the mandated lessons, suggested readings, etc. are all uniform. So students, regardless of taking the course online or taking the course face-to-face, have the same content. With that being said, Mr. Stevens then told me because of a board policy, my daughter would not be receiving weighted credit. To which I said, to no fault of her own is she getting this course delivered online. To no fault of her own has she done her due diligence and met with the guidance counselor, etc. I don't think that's acceptable. To which he said, address all of you. So here I am to ask you to reevaluate this policy. I'm a professor at Penn State. The majority of my students, before they graduate, do take courses online. It's weighted exactly the same. I know that a lot of the kids in the AP curriculum are college-bound. This would be preparatory for them. My husband's a physician. Between the two of us, we are deeply vested in the outcomes of our children's education. We don't want to be in a situation where her GPA is less than that of someone competing for a spot at an Ivy League school. That's what it comes down to. And if she's doing the work and she's going to the library during 6th period and getting the lessons delivered via computer versus a teacher in the classroom, she should be rewarded. And I ask all of you to change this policy for the 2019-2020 school year moving forward because of the last-minute changes. You can't call someone 3 days before school starts and say, okay, we're going to put you in calculus. I would have had her in calculus tutoring all summer had I known that was the available option. Instead, she was in an SAT prep course, which worked, but nonetheless, it's not fair. And the policy is punitive for students who are forced to take it online as opposed to sitting in a study hall, which is inappropriate. So I urge you all to change this policy for the 2019-2020 school year, allowing students taking the courses online to receive weighted credit. Thank you.
Thank you. And we've had some conversations, and I've addressed these concerns with Dr. Short and Dr. Chakey, and it was actually in our board report that he is doing some research and is going to come back to the board with some recommendations on this exactly. Is there anything else that either of you want to add?
First and foremost, congratulations on being number 1 in the class.
For right now, though.
And
No pressure, Mom. No pressure.
and understand that we do have a very broad and comprehensive curriculum that offers multiple AP courses, honors level courses, that I would put this high school up against any other high school in Western Pennsylvania with the amount of course offerings. However, when we do have the master schedule that is run, sections become an issue. If there are only, say, 8 to 10 requests for a section of advanced placement courses. It usually falls within one period. And it's at that time, decisions have to be made with the counselor, the student, and the parent to make those choices. This is not unlike something that we haven't had for multiple years. But also allowing that the cyber course option is in place to take those courses. You would receive credit for that. If you would pass the AP exam with a 3 or higher, you would also receive those college credits. This is not atypical to other high schools in Western Pennsylvania that do not allow weighted courses for online advanced placement or honors.
Okay, but in 2019, 2020, there's absolutely no reason for the policy to be punitive. If the course is identical and the child is doing the exact same work, they should receive equal credit. And just because other people are doing it wrong doesn't mean Gateway should too. If the student is doing the work, they deserve the credit. And that
They're receiving the credit.
they should receive the weighted credit as well. There's no reason to be punitive because they're sitting behind a computer versus a classroom. If my daughter didn't turn her paperwork in February, I would agree with you. If my daughter didn't do her due diligence and meet with Mr. Whelan, which she did multiple times, with the recommendation, I would agree with you. She did her due diligence. There wasn't a seat for her. Okay, but then don't say you don't receive the weighted credit because there isn't a seat. In 2019, 2020, there's no reason for that. The course
When you
is
say
identical.
there's not a seat,
Exactly. So the way that the course master schedule fell, she would either have to be in 2 places at once or there wasn't a seat for her. So she'd either have to be choose between AP Spanish or AP History. So
and that's what I talked about, a choice has to be made, that we don't
yes,
have an
but
opportunity.
it doesn't. You're wrong, Dr. Short. In this 2019, 2020 environment, you don't have to make a choice. When the curriculum exists, the lecture is delivered via a computer. That's the whole point. The exact same lecture that is being delivered in a classroom is being delivered via a computer. There's no reason why she shouldn't receive the credit. She's doing the work. If at some point she wasn't doing the work or doing the assignments, if you look in that course outline, the assignments are the same. So why? You're not making a valid point as to why. It's not like she's doing less than. Why wouldn't she?
So this is something that I think we've committed to re-examine, correct, Dr. Chakey? And what,
Right now, we're starting to go through the program of studies for next year. And we're also looking at some of the valid points that you're making and trying to come to a consensus with it. So it's definitely on our radar, and we definitely want to take a look at it.
is there a time frame when you think we might be able to get back to her? Or when you'll
I
have
can
a
get
report back to the
this
board?
week as to, letting you know some of the progress and some of the thinking behind some of the situations there, but I'll definitely call you this week.
Call me back. That'd be great. So if you could all as a board get together and reevaluate this policy. I have a daughter who just started Ramsey Elementary, and I am deeply vested in her education as well, and a son who will be starting in a little bit. So please, I urge you to reconsider. In 2019, 2020, we don't need to punish a student because they're sitting in front of a computer versus a classroom.
Okay, Mrs. Kaplan, thank you for advocating for your daughter, and thank you for caring so much about education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none. Reports. Dr. Chakey, do you have anything this evening?
Nothing. Thank you.
Dr. Rossi?
Nothing further.
Mr. Schott?
Nothing further, thank you.
Mrs. Crump? Who are you hiring?
We are accepting applications for lunchroom aides, paraprofessionals, food service workers, and substitute custodians.
Thank you. Mrs. Warning? Mr. Lapsevich?
Thank you. I just want one thing, to wish Dr. Short the best of luck in the next 5 years, because these first 5 years, he showed who he really was, a great scholar. Thank you.
Mr. Rhodes?
Nothing, thank you.
Anything interesting for us, Mr. Rhodes? To give you a chance to talk here.
Congratulations, Bill.
Thank you.
Bruce says congratulations.
Mr. McIntyre?
Rick has nothing.
Mr. Goldman?
Only person with something? Yeah, I'll break the trend here. With the esports thing, since it's been passed, I am going to have an open challenge to the first group, so bring it on. With September 11th being last week with the 18th anniversary, it kind of got me thinking about, you know, with our graduating class coming up and doing some research, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I think with our graduating class this year, our seniors might be the very first class to be 100% born after 9/11, which I find pretty historic. You know, they have never seen the world prior to that, and they look at it as history, whereas we look at it as an event. So I think it's pretty cool. And then with the artwork, with the new school year, I decided to do something a little bit different here, to add a little more detail into the artwork here. So this artwork is presented not only by the Gateway Middle School, but our 8th grade class. And the theme of this artwork was using contour lines, which is it defines an edge or form. So what the students ended up doing was they drew lines that followed the visible edges of a hand, as well as curving lines important to showing the dimensions of the hand. So you're taking 2D drawings and creating a 3D visual. And then they further emphasize the background through the color and application of the lines pattern. So not only can you see the hands, but using the patterns behind it creates more depth. And with this coming from 8th grade, I can't imagine what they'll do once it hits the 12th grade. I mean, this is great work to start off the school year, and I'm always looking forward to more. That's my report.
Such an art critic. Nothing this evening, thank you.
I have nothing, so with that, I would, I forgot you. Nothing else to add? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Aye.
We're